Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to live stream. Yeah, good to see you all. Not that I can really see you. Back in the day when I first started streaming, when streaming wasn't so popular, some people used to think that I could see them, and so they would sit there, dressed and looking proper because they thought they could be seen. I thought that was so sweet. Like, yeah, no, I can't see you. But now I think everyone gets that you can't be seen. Well, maybe not everyone. Um, okay, so we shall begin with the talk. It is called Breaking the Spell of Thought Illusions to Find Happiness. Yeah, that's a very intense title. Um, but we shall begin. So first of all, before we begin, I want to give a disclaimer that this isn't therapy. This isn't about improving your life as such, working out how to have a better life or live a better life. This subject is non-duality. It's speaking about that which is beyond life, that which is beyond your mind and your thoughts. Yeah. So if you're doing this to make your life better, that's okay, but it's just recognizing this isn't actually about the apparent flow of things. So in the title, I say, I think how to become happy and to be happy. But we have to define what happiness is. Normally, happiness is somebody that's happy with their life. I will talk more about that. So non-duality is a phenomenal subject. I suspect originally it was in all religions and philosophies, but it kind of got very diluted in a lot of Western thinking and spiritual practice. But in the East, it carried on thriving. And non-duality is kind of you could say more of the essence of, say, the Bhagavad Gita or the Buddha's teachings. It's not so much about practicing and what you do and how you get there. It's more pointing directly to that which you are. So in Indian systems, it would be called jnana yoga, which is wisdom yoga. So rather than doing acrobatics of the body, we're doing acrobatics with wisdom, with thought, with idea. Yeah. But it's kind of, emerged out of the East and come into the West. And then, like every culture, when it mixes, there's been a merging of lots of different things. And a lot of Western teachers speak about therapy and human development and non-duality. And I'm not opposed to that. I think it's beautiful. But I tend to just point more to non-duality. In the past, I worked more with the person. And you can find older videos talking about chakras and working with feelings and emotions and thoughts. But now I've gone back to more just pointing to non-duality. But I'm really not opposed to working on yourself. And on my website, there's lots of different recommendations of things that you can do if you find yourself in a lot of mental suffering or physical suffering, or you just don't feel so good in yourself. There's so many things that can improve that. Yes. So I forgot what the title is. Hang on, just let me have a look again. breaking the spell of thought illusion to find happiness. Breaking the spell. It's so amazing the way that we compile words together in order to make meaning. So break the spell. So spell, is associated with witches. It's associated with magic, potions. You put a spell on someone. That's also spelling. You can also spell a word. But the spell is kind of in the way that it's meant here is where you kind of get hypnotized by something. So a witch's spell could be a love potion. And then you drink a potion or something, and then you're in love with somebody that you wouldn't have been in love with before. So what this title is kind of implying is that you've been hypnotized by your thoughts. But thoughts are such a phenomenal thing, because what are thoughts and where do they come from? And whose are they? Because thoughts to us are such a personal thing, because we feel like we are somebody inside the head kind of talking to ourselves. And we're thinking about life, we're thinking about what to do, we're thinking about ourselves. And it feels such a personal thing. But where do thoughts come from? And where do words come from? So it's such an amazing phenomena that humans think and have this kind of private thinking world and believe that it is their own. When I was younger, before awakenings, I remember believing that in order to experience, I had to think about something. And I believed that. I had to be able to name something in order for it to be. And I had to tell myself about an experience in order for it to be. And I didn't realize, I think, how existential that was. Then as I got into non-duality, I realized that I was prior to thoughts. Who I truly was prior to thoughts. And in order to experience, I didn't need to think. But when we're identified, and most people in this society are having such a private, intimate relationship with their thinking world, that to them it's the whole reality and it's their truth. And that's hard to imagine what that means, but it's their truth. They truly believe that they are a daughter or a mother or a father, or that they're a human being, that they are French or German or Irish. They truly believe that to be their reality. That is fact. That is fact. That is the way it is. That person is bad, I'm good. The wall is white, the sky is blue, the tree is green, the tree is growing. Evolution exists, God doesn't exist, and all of this is real because it's in me and I'm thinking it. And so this is what I call spellbound. Humans are spellbound by thought, and they can't imagine a world outside of thought because every imagination is thought. So non-duality is pointing to something which is beyond thought. the most intimate sense of being. And perception. So prior to thought, prior to everything, is perception and the sense of being. So there can be an experiencing of this moment without thought, without knowing who you are, without knowing where you are, without knowing if you're good or bad, what you've done or not done. The whole life, everything you know in thought can be forgotten, and there is still an empty looking, or pure consciousness, big consciousness, however we call it, and this intimate sense of being. Those people that regularly watch me, I'm going to start changing my terminology as an effect of studying Nisargadatta Maharaj in my book clubs and Ramana and Papaji, because I was using amness and I am as this intimate sense of being. And I was using it as the feeling of I am that arrives with the person. And I noticed that they differentiate between being and then the I am is an experience. And so I'm going to change to their way of speaking because it makes more sense, because so many more teachers teach like that and they teach like that. So it makes more sense that I move. And it maybe creates more clarity because I was kind of using the I am as the most intimate sense of being and the experience of I am, the first initial experience of I am. I kind of like just caught them together because in the end, everything comes together. So these definitions aren't so important, but when you're speaking, there needs to be a pulling out of things to give clarity. But in the end, there is no feeling of I am. There is the sense of existence and then the empty looking. And then the I am, prior to I am something, kind of merges into that, you know. You don't really have all these different things. But I now understand the way in which Nisargadatta is using it. So I'm just going to adjust that slightly. But maybe you don't even notice because all these things are so hard to talk about. So precise and non-precise. Yeah. So the initial thought that comes up is I am, I exist. So there's a sense of being, and then out of that sense of being comes this I exist, the initial thought. It feels strange to call that thought because I've for so many years used this in different contexts. But yeah, so the I am comes up as the initial thought, and that doesn't have to go. That's not identification as such, that's a practicality that's needed with the body. So there's this feeling of I exist. And then what happens is I am a name, I am a body starts. And as soon as this starts, seeking begins. So the initial I am is part of functioning, but then the I am gets attached to thoughts. So rather than just being I am and I'm existing, like a feeling and thought of existing, it then attaches to ideas. And it tries to become these ideas. It's like there is an energy that wants the I am to incarnate as something. And then this is seeking. So I am a body, I am a name, and then the using of the movement towards pleasure and the avoidance of pain in order to carry on identifying. So I am good, which is a pleasurable thought. I am bad, which is a painful one. So I don't want to be bad. And this is all creating a you. When there's just the initial thought, I am, then you're infinite. You're not anything, you just are. You're in innocence. When you go beyond the I am, just to the pure being, then there's like absolute innocence, but maybe there's that samadhi, there's no ability to move the body. When you're in this I am, the initial thought, there's infinite possibilities, but that identification wants to become something. So it wants to be all pleasurable things. So I'm good, I'm better than everyone else, I'm beautiful, I'm special, I'm funny, I'm rich, I'm successful. I mean, obviously it can't be rich as a young child, but maybe identifies with the parents' money. My parents are successful. My parents are great people. So it wants to be all these grand things, to be loved. It's very simple in a way. And it wants to be loved because as soon as it's begun to be something, it feels an absence of love. And so therefore, the game of the person will always be to attempt to get love from its identifications. I am better than you, and there's a hope that there'll be love there. I've won that game, and there's a hope there'll be love there. Not a conscious hope, but a bodily, visceral sensation of trying to be loved. Um, and then this is suffering. This is what the human does, and this is the life of suffering. It's like trying to catch water in a net. The person is trying to become more and more in order to return to its initial sense of love when it just was. So it identifies with form, and then it seeks in form, it seeks in pleasurable things to try to get back to the formless. And it never can. And that's what most humans are doing. And the seeking creates identity. I'm good, I'm richer than, I'm better than, I'm a doctor, or I'm a cleaner, or I'm this, I'm that. writer, I'm successful, I'm not successful. All of these things it identifies with create an identity. And then that story inside the head of you is always trying to maintain itself, and then gives the experience of a center, of a soul, of a person living inside the body. And it's an impossible game because the person wants to avoid pain and get to pleasure. And it's impossible because inevitably these bodies are going to fail. As they age, they will get more and more pain. They will be less and less beautiful, less and less capable. The mind won't work as well. Be more dependent. So inevitably this game is going to fail. But the human person, the identified person, is in complete denial of that and trying its best to keep that away and stay with this positive idea. But it creates immense stress. It creates burnout, immense suffering, arguments, disharmony, personality disorders. It creates all types of issues. Most probably a lot of mental illness stem from it, because the seeking overstimulates the nervous system. Then the nervous system creates issues with the hormonal system, and then the hormonal system creates issues with the chemicals like serotonin. So most probably also creates mental illness, but there can also be mental illness which is genetic. It doesn't necessarily have to be from seeking. Yeah. And it creates this very greedy mentality. The person is like a hungry ghost. Like in Buddhism, they have this image of this ghost with a very small mouth and a massive stomach. And it's like the human is like trying to stuff its face to fill this huge stomach, but it just can't get enough food down. So it's like constantly eating all day and all night. And then we get issues with consuming too much, with waste, not caring about the people around us, losing empathy, compassion. So non-duality, the goal is to discover what you are prior to identification. This is a magical, mysterious journey. It really is. To discover what you were prior to being someone, prior to your name, prior to what other people tell you you are, prior to your country. I am French, I am English. Prior to your intelligence, prior to your capabilities. If you're a period in your life where you've got lots of pleasure, maybe that's not so interesting. But if you've got more pain, then maybe that's super interesting. The number one most important, I can't say that enough, quality to have is the desire to know yourself beyond form. Otherwise, it's just another seeking pattern. It's another, I mean, you could call that seeking, but it's like the ultimate seeking. But it's, if you're using this to try to be better than other people, which I come across a lot, like they discover this and then suddenly like, oh my goodness, I'm God, I am everyone. And then they are using it to try to be better than everyone again. You know, so the most important quality that I see, although please know that because this life is of infinite possibilities, this can always be contradicted. But most of the time, there needs to be this quality, but it could always be contradicted. That's the nature of this reality. But most of the time, the number one quality, so 99.9999999% of the time, is the desire to know yourself. And in order to that desire to arise, you have to really realize that life doesn't work. The premise of hunting pleasure and avoiding pain doesn't work. You're never going to get there. You're never going to get enough money. You're never going to get enough kids. You're never going to get enough lovers. You're never going to have enough sex. It's never going to work. So that has to be seen. And when that's seen, really deeply seen, then there will be the true desire to know yourself beyond seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. This will be the true seeking, the initial seeking to find out yourself. And then when that's there, then it's a home run. But a lot of people think that that's what they want, but they don't really want. Really, what they want is to control their partner through this teaching, or to have a better partner, or to just have a bit of an easier life, or to overcome a burnout, or because it's too stressful, your current life. But there are the select few, most of the people that I'm speaking to, that really, truly want this. And then when it's truly wanted, then that's what will appear. That true seeking, and that's what will appear. And that's that you can begin to go on to the teaching of law of attraction. Because how does this world work? You know, and you might notice that it works predominantly through desire. So what you desire will appear. But there's always exceptions. You don't want to get too fixated on that. That's a very complicated subject, because people have to find that out for themselves. They have to realize that sometimes they're desiring bad things. And it doesn't mean if bad things happen, it's because you desired it. It doesn't quite work like that. So you have to really explore yourself and go in to understand these teachings. And then I would just also give a disclaimer that, once this is seen, there's then the discovery that there was nobody ever with desire. There was nobody ever seeking this. There was nobody ever acting independently. There was nobody really with karma. And when we talk about this, we have to kind of jump around these different levels, which makes it very confusing. That's why it's called jnana yoga, the acrobatics of the mind. So if you imagine physical yoga, like bending in all these positions, like the ultimate yoga is jnana of the mind. The mind becomes so flexible, it holds on to nothing. There is no place it can sit that doesn't get irate that I'm not speaking all extreme non-duality, or it doesn't get irate when I do speak extreme non-duality. It doesn't get irate when there is contradictions. It sees everything for what it is. Infinite possibilities. Yes. Let's see what the second part of the breaking the spell of thought illusion to find happiness. Yeah. So happiness is a very deceptive word, and it's maybe not the best word. Some teachers use it, like Rupert Spira uses happiness. A lot of teachers from India would use bliss, sat-chit-ananda. Rupert Spira would say that bliss is a misinterpretation. I would happily call it bliss, but I didn't want to name the talk and find true bliss. Happiness is more westernized. So the nature of who you are is absolute bliss. When there is a connection with who you are, what is experienced in the person is bliss. Very blissful. Sat-chit-ananda. And that's important to register, but it's not a goal. Bliss also comes and goes. So there's times where there has to be more character there, has to be more involvement in life, and when there is, there will be less bliss. And when there is less things, less complexities, then there can be more of a disappearance of everything, the whole entire world, and then there will be max bliss. That's what's called samadhi, but you can't function from max non-identification. You can't be in samadhi all the time. It's an experience that comes and goes. But what can happen is there can be a movement from identifying with form back to that which is watching, the empty looking, and pure beingness. So that you no longer feel like somebody or something. Your looking is vast and empty. You could say it's no thing and all things. Another way to put it is you're standing in the precipice between nothing and everything, between the unmanifest and manifested. And that would be the connection to the pure beingness and the empty looking. And that's what I would maybe call awakening. Everybody has different terminologies and different markers as to where you are and what's awakening or what's enlightenment. But to me, that would be awakening. When there is an energetic shift and it's kind of like a permanent movement out of being a contracted center inside of the body to being the pure consciousness and pure being. And that isn't the end of human conditions, or it wasn't for me. So my person then, I feel what happens is then is my person aligns more and more with that. And this is why I think you'll see different teachers at different places. So if you look at someone like Ananda Maya, she was so much in the unmanifest, and the character had so little desire left. So there was like her personality was very expanded. Her personality was very in line with who she truly is. Whereas when I read her, I feel like my personality has more issues than her. So it's not as in line with that stillness of what I am. But then when I read other teachers, I feel the other way as well. Like I'm not trying to put myself down or put myself up. But when I read Ananda Mai, I feel like I deeply recognize what she's talking about, but that my character isn't as expanded as hers or evolved as hers. Like, so I think that, like, for an example, what would be an example? Like, she would say that her character has absolutely no fear, whereas I don't know what she means by that. You know, she's not alive. Whereas I know that this character still experiences fear. And I don't have a seeking or a goal to get rid of that fear, but I can see naturally that whatever fears or whatever is happening in the personality, there's always this urge to expand it, whatever comes up, to see the illusion of it and expand it. Yeah. There's no sticking point. And I don't see a goal, like I don't see an end for the person, or a beginning. Yeah. But one thing I do recognize, like very strongly recognize with someone like Ananda Mai that speaks is, and with Nisargadatta Maharaj, is this bliss that's ever present. And that's even there in the fear. That's there in everything. And it comes and goes in intensity. But it's when you're connected to the emptiness of what you are, there is this natural well-being, this bliss, this love that's here. This okayness with everything. It's beautiful. Me. Yeah. So I don't know if I've got any more to say on that. That's that. The whole talk's done. We're finished. Yeah. So if you want to continue, then you're so welcome to ask any questions about what I've said for clarity. There's also a resonance that happens. There's mental clarity that can happen, but there's then the resonance that's beyond mental clarity, where you're recognizing in me what is always in you. It's super beautiful. If anyone's watching that's in Telegram, can you let me know if you can hear the kids, because I can go and shut the windows to take out the sound. They seem to be playing very close to my window. Yeah. I don't hear the kids. Okay, cool. I don't have to shut the window. Question. There is a deep... Oh, cool. Thanks, everybody. There is a deep longing for freedom and a realization of the true nature of self. However, ego is still wavering its webs. When is oneness seemingly allowed to share these insights with others? I don't know. When is one seemingly allowed to share these insights with others? Maybe a good starting point would be when you're doing it for the love of doing it and not from the return. Like obviously there will be returns from anything that you do, and you can like those, but like your true motive is the true motive is because of the love of the expression. So you're kind of like speaking not for yourself, not to become form, not to be something, but because of the love of the expression of it. But I don't know in the end. Everything is God's will, so it's perfect speaking or not speaking. Everything is perfection. Everything. Yeah, so while we're waiting for the next question, and just after we've said that, I will just do some advertisements. So next weekend, I can't do a live stream because I am doing a talk with Open Circle. You can find that on my website and you're welcome to join. It's by donation. And there is also an October retreat happening in the south of Europe. And you're so welcome to join that as well. And please, if you appreciate this video, make sure that you give it a thumbs up and leave a comment. Yeah. And if you join the Telegram group, or asked to join the Telegram group, make sure that you check your junk mail after you've requested, because the return email comes from the website and sometimes that makes it go to junk. So there's no questions, so I'm just sitting enjoying the silence. If anyone's got any questions, you can put your hand up on Zoom or you can write in Telegram. I'm not seeking happiness, just less suffering. The mental prison I live in can be very painful. It just never stops. Lots of negative thinking. I've been trying self-inquiry and I feel it calms the thoughts, but also it feels a bit like I'm pushing away the thoughts. Which self-inquiry questions do you recommend for very negative thoughts? I'm happy to answer these questions, but just a disclaimer, everything is God's will. So anything that I say isn't actually a prescription, because who would I prescribe to? I don't actually see someone there, and there's not actually someone here. There is simply God expressing. So that's the number one disclaimer. And number two, I can't see you. I can just see a name and words on the screen. So, what I say, don't take it as gospel, because there's a very artificial way in a way of doing this. I don't get any sense of you except words. Maybe that's enough. We don't know in the end. But if you've got lots of negative thoughts, then rather than doing netty, not this, not that, or self-inquiry, which is netty, like who am I? Maybe it would be appropriate to go more towards Bhakti, which is the practice of seeing God in everything. It's a more loving way. So in every movement, you're remembering that that's God moving you. When anyone speaks to you, you're remembering that that is God speaking to you. When any good thing happens, you're seeing that's God doing it for you. When any bad thing happens, you're seeing it's God. So the more Bhakti way is seeing God in everything. The more loving way is seeing God in everything. So when you're having painful thoughts, it's God. And it's not that God hates you or God is negative, that's an extra thought. It's putting your mind more on God. So you're bringing God, the divine, more into your life in everything. When you're cooking, it is the divine. When you're eating, it is the divine. When you're looking at the sky, it is the divine. When the clouds move, it is the divine. That there isn't a small you that is being persecuted by life. And then in line with that, then you could, put your attention more on, say, breath. So to move the attention more onto breath or more onto the sense of I am. I am. The initial sense of being, so focusing the mind. So this would be more the positive way of doing it rather than who am I and the negating. But I don't know if it's appropriate, it's just what comes. I don't want to be giving things to people and making it like this is the way when I'm not a deep connection with that person. This is suggestion. And in the end, whether that suggestion is taken up is God's will or rejected is God's will. If at any points you do begin to hear the kids, like an interference, you say they're like super loud. I think they're like using batons to try to kill each other, like sword fighting, like take. Yeah, you're dead, I'm dead, you're dead, I'm dead, I'm you, me. When I am alone, I feel very connected to Source, aware and awake. Of course, I still get lost in thoughts, but I always come back. But when I'm with others, I really struggle to stay grounded in awareness and not lose myself in the other person or the conversation. How can I remain grounded when I'm sucked in by the interaction? In a way, I'm fully present with the experience because I listen fully and I'm completely there, but something still doesn't feel right, and I feel like I come back to awareness as soon as I'm alone again. Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, the ideal way, but God will do this when God sees fit for this to happen, is when in communion with another to also keep the attention on the sense of I am. So you're having a sense of the initial thought, I am. As well as the interaction with the other. If you prefer putting it in the empty looking, then that's another way of doing it. But I quite like the putting the attention in the I am, like that teaching. I mean, that's more of Nisargadatta Maharaj and Roger and Ramesh. So where this body, this Lisa, this me came from, those types of teachings. I am. So the initial thought, I am. When you come to the initial thought, I am, it's really loving because it's right next to the pure beingness. So this is why it's really good, to investigate the I am. Nisargadatta Maharaja's teacher said to him, always stay with the I am, and then you discover what's beyond that initial I am. It's weird changing the way I'm speaking a little, I have to say. But I'm going to pursue that. I used to call the I am the same as the pure beingness, the sense of existence. But now I understand that the other teachers separate it out, and I understand why they do that, and I can see the benefit of that. But they're so close because, in a way, when you come back to the initial I am thought, it sort of disappears, and then there's pure beingness. But then you kind of need I am to relate. Because oh, sorry, I didn't mean to say your name, but the person that asked this question just a moment ago, what's happening to you in those situations is you are being present, but you're becoming them. So you'll become their thoughts and their feelings, and that's most probably why you feel uncomfortable. So staying with the human initial I am, you're not totally becoming them and their feelings, if you understand what I mean. You're kind of got a broad perspective as it all. Their feelings and their thoughts are part of you, part of the consciousness. But then you also want to include the I am, the initial thought I am, otherwise you'll become their thoughts and feelings. So you want to contain that in the experience so that you don't take on board all their thoughts and feelings. I think this is what's happening. This is what happens to me often. It's one of my karmas, is when I meet people to not become them. I'm so busting for the toilet, but I'm also super blissed out and can't be bothered to move. Do you think Ramana Maharshi just used to, no, I shouldn't say that. Some people will feel mortified. How could I say that about a saint? Lisa, you always take it to the lowest level. Peeing is non-human and non-saintly and shouldn't be talked about. Okay, excuse me. I am going to discharge water. I am back. Where are we? So there we are. Questions that we're doing? Okay. Nice. So this is from the person that asked about, I try not to say names now to give people some privacy, but it's hard. So they asked about the neti and the self-inquiry, and they have lots of negative thinking. So I replied to what I said was nice. That makes me feel some metta already. Metta means loving kindness kind of thing. It's also possible to ask, is it also possible to ask questions via Zoom, like in my real voice? That would make it more precise, more personal, maybe. Yeah, you can put your hand up in Zoom and we can speak if you want to, or another day. You might be satisfied now. This is a new question. You explained about the meaning of bhakti and neti. Could explain a bit about the meaning of sat-chit-ananda? Sat-chit-ananda. I just have to say that I am dyslexic. So when it comes to English words, I'll get confused. When it comes to my second language words, I get even more confused to the point where I can't even create a fluent conversation yet. So when it comes to a Sanskrit, there's a good chance that I'm going to get everything back to front. So take it with a pinch of salt. I can't guarantee I'm going to get all this the right way around. So some people translate it as either consciousness, truth, bliss, or truth, consciousness, bliss. I forgot which way around it is. And some people translate it as being, consciousness, bliss. I know Ananda is definitely bliss, but I've forgotten the other two. I think Chit is consciousness and Sat is being. So my interpretation of it, if it's truth or being, is when there is a going beyond the mind, going beyond duality, the opposites of thinking, to no mind or to non-duality, then there is, when the human body is alive, we're sitting in the precipice between nothing and everything. So the precipice is the empty looking, the consciousness, and then the pure being. And then what manifests in the human when there is a sitting in that place or a resuming of that position, which is positionless, then there is bliss in the human form. But sat and chit, for the rest of my life, I might get that back to front. I learned yesterday that Yahweh, one of the Hebrew biblical words for God, can be translated to English as I am. Oh, nice. Yeah. It may be a good practice to hear the kids as the expression of God. Sometimes I hear music while listening to non-duality talks, and it seems to help open the gates to become loving awareness. Yes, totally. It is. God crying, God hitting the button, God playing everything. Beautiful. Anyone watching is wondering why there is silence. There is two answers, because that's God's will. Number one, the most important, because it's God's will that nobody is writing a question, so there is nothing coming here to be spoken about. So yeah, it's beautiful though to share silence. The humans speak way too much. They love to bash lips together. Is the Bhakti way the same as sticking to the I am while living one's life? A little bit, in a way. The Bhakti way is, is devotion, is in every instant. You might feel like you're serving God, originally, but it's like giving everything to God in every moment. Thinking of God in every moment. The Bhakti way tends to be more guru. So you start with a guru and you love the guru. And then eventually you begin to see the guru as God and then see everything as God. It's like this progression. And you give all the pain and the suffering to the guru. But it's in a way giving it to God, but you're doing it in a human form because the mind is dualistic, but eventually you're giving everything to God. So it's rather than negating not this nor that, it is like that is God, the initial feeling of I am, which is God. But it's not as potent, not potent, it's just not as well defined as using the word God, I suppose. Yeah. It's more the positive, than the netty negative. But some people might see going to the I am as netty because you're kind of negating everything else, but that's what you're kind of doing back to as well. It all comes down to the same in the end. And then I would see the I am more as the loving, the love side, the being, the manifested, and the empty looking, the not this, not that, the emptiness as the nothingness, the wisdom side. So could you say neti is a practice to shortcut circuit thoughts, the mind, and bhakti is a devotion from the heart? Yeah. Yeah, lovely way to phrase it. So one may use the bridge of allowing one's love for the guru and the world of which the I am is a part. Being just with the I am is love without an object, more like taking a bath. Yeah. I'm sure you've heard my story. Like, I didn't really know that this was Bhakti or what was happening, but when I was younger, I started doing this thing where I imagined having a boyfriend or a girlfriend and being really loved. That was what I really desired. So being really, really loved. This was when I was like maybe just before being a teenager, or also when I was a teenager. I did it often. So I'd imagine being loved and having the perfect partner. And I would imagine this so much that I would become so filled with love that at a point I would stop imagining them and then there would just be love. And it was such a divine experience. And so I'd do it often. I would listen to music. I would imagine what I really wanted, which at the time was a partner. a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and I imagined loving them to the max and them loving me to the max and us having everything we wanted. And then the love would take over and the imagination and the division would disappear. And then there would be this love. And this really profoundly affected my relationships and what steered me towards the subject, because I then realized, without any verbal context of this subject, that I could get the love that I wanted from any relationship, any object, or anything just by sitting and imagining having it. And that profoundly affected things, because I also began to notice that that practice was better than doing anything. It was more satisfying doing that than going out having a boyfriend or girlfriend, than being successful. And this is the same as what would be described as Bhakti or Tantra practices, where you would take a guru or an image, of an image, like the Buddha's image, and you would imagine loving them. And then that's evoking love in your heart. And then stage by stage, you then, imagine surrendering to them, and then the division between you gone, and then eventually you imagine everything as love. There's a whole practice to it and process of it. So in Bhakti, you give everything to them, and like all your suffering and all your pain and everything, all your desires. But in Tantra, I think it's more like you're evoking that image and evoking that fire in your heart, that passion and that love. Yeah. And I suppose that's why I never really did self-inquiry. I did the I am practice. I always knew what the I am was and this love. And so when Roger or Ramesh or Nisargadatta would say, put the attention in the I am, which is the initial thought, which is right next to the pure being and the empty looking, like I knew what that was, this love. Some people, go more towards nothing first, and some towards everything. And then they're seen as the same. Same. I love that story about imagining what your heart truly desires, and maybe it should be taught in kindergarten. When you see children do meditation, do they immediately realize the I am? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's really vital that we change our education system. To me, it seems like one of the most important things in our society is the education of kids, and we tend to put the least amount of money into this and the least amount of research. Yes, I think that teaching meditation is so important. Teaching this subject is so important. Teaching therapy is so important. And then predominantly teaching kids play as the form of learning. You know, so what is it that the kid wants to play? And then how does that transform into learning? Because play isn't like a thing that should be done for half an hour as a treat in break time. It's the natural inkling of what the child wants to learn, rather than forcing them to learn algebra or words. You have to encourage the child to find its passions and interests, not passion seeking, but passions as in, you know, the tiger likes to stalk prey, the monkey loves to climb, the fish swims, the bird loves to fly. Got to find what that child loves. This is a lot more prominent though in your home country because there's a lot more Waldorf schools and Steiner schools. So this is more in the mentality, but not in most countries. And that nothing needs to be rushed. You know, God is in the detail. We're going to do this, stamp it, so then we can go and play. Like one thing, this is something you can question if you have kids. We live near a kindergarten, and you know, in the break time, the kids scream a lot, and most humans think that this is them having fun and that this is a positive thing. And I don't know in the end, but I'm not sure if that's true. Like, what other animal does its work, then has half an hour of play, and then run around screaming in what sounds like pain? Not in what sounds like joy or laughter, but in what sounds like pain. Like, imagine if we had dogs and they did work and then they went outside for half an hour play and they're barking and screeching and howling the whole time. Like, would you see that as a happy, balanced dog? Like, or if we take out dogs because they live with us, so that's more confusing, you know, and we encourage this kind of crazy play. But if we took monkeys and we put lots of baby monkeys together. And if you watch a monkey in Asia or in whole countries where they actually live, they make sounds. But if we put them all together and they're making sounds constantly, and they're just running around chaotically screaming, would we interpret that as them being happy or distressed? I would see that as being distressed in a monkey. But we take kids, we put them in this big playground, we educate them, then we let them out and they go crazy screaming, and we call that happiness. We call that excitement, we call that play. Is that really what that is? So next time you're at your kid's school, watch the expressions of the kids and watch the way in which our society indoctrinates us as to what happiness is. They take out what you have been told about the situation and interpret it from looking at the kid. Is the kid looking like it's in pain or enjoying itself? And I would say they mostly look like they're in pain. They're kind of, ah. Sometimes they look like they're enjoying itself, but most of the time it looks like pain and overexcitement. But overexcitement from an anxious place. Nice. That is everything. Maybe that's the end today. So next week, if you want to join me for a talk, then you can go to my website and find the Open Circle link. I'm doing a talk with Open Circle next Sunday. It's by donation. Yeah, there'll be a link to it below. And please make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you want to support this channel. If you want to ask questions the next time I go live, then you sign up to Telegram. Again, there's a box below, a link below, which will tell you how to do that and what to do. Yeah. Yeah, thank you, everyone. I really, 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 really wish you everything. Everything. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, everybody, and soon. Bye-bye.